Hey, Ken, thanks for joining me. Hey, everybody. My name is Solomon Barghouti. I am a Red Hat Synergy sales leader. I cover mainly the Southeast. And with me is Ken. Ken, you want to introduce yourself?
Howdy, everyone. Name's Ken Monty. I am a solution architect here at Red Hat covering all things DevOps. So thanks for having me along for this little demo.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for all the stuff that you're going to be showing the team here. So if we can go to the next slide there, Ken. So the purpose of this presentation and demo that we're trying to show you is to actually go after an existing use case that many of the IBM customers are running that's going to allow us to increase our business and increase our deployments of the OpenShift deployments through the Cloud Paks. Currently, the Cloud Paks, kind of the target use cases that IBM does with the Cloud Pak for application, which is what this sales play is targeting, is to optimize your existing applications by taking advantage of the cloud, by developing, gives you a platform to develop cloud native applications, which is obviously the Cloud Paks has OpenShift in it. This is a major part of it. And last but not least, part of the sales play is that you can, by the way, with these Cloud Paks, deploy your existing environment with your existing ways. And when I say existing environment, I'm going to refer to traditional WebSphere. The area that we're going to be covering and showing the demo is how you can not just simply deploy that traditional WebSphere and just from a license perspective use the Cloud Pak for, but rather taking that WebSphere, traditional WebSphere environment and application and rehost it on OpenShift as is, meaning that you do not have to make any changes to the application, which is typically what people need to kind of plan for to modernize. So you're rehosting it, where, Ken, if you can skip to the next slide, once you host it, you can take advantage of all the value that OpenShift comes in, from utilization of resources under the covers, from being able to have one common administration across the board. You don't have to have specific WebSphere skills to deploy an application for WebSphere, or specific different kind of set of skill set to be able to deploy something different. Now you can just deploy it as containers and have the OpenShift platform and environment basically be able to take on the balancing of resources and everything else. These are some just sample numbers that I'm going to share with you, which you can share with your customers. This is, by the way, this session is intended for IBM and Red Hat sellers. Obviously, this is the part of the recording that we're doing here at the Red Hat team that we're going to be mainly for our Red Hat sellers. So when you look at the data, which speaks for itself, the 531% ROI over 5 years, this is just, there was a study done on this from IDC, but I want to focus on the 80% less unplanned downtime. I mean, this is huge for organizations, and that's the value that OpenShift brings you. Or having, when I talked about consolidation of resources, we're having 49% more efficient IT infrastructure. Now, think of all these teams that may use a silo of resources to deploy any given environments where they might be only utilizing 20 or 30% of these systems, but the rest of it is going to waste. If it is running as part of the OpenShift environment, all you're doing is now utilizing it to the extreme, because these resources will be allocated to whoever needs it. And obviously, part of what we're going to be showing today is the demo of showing taking a traditional WebSphere application that's run in the traditional way and rehosting it with zero changes to the application, both on premises first and then taking it to the cloud. And as you know, that means that now if you have a plan to go deploy to the public clouds, now this is kind of a way of doing it through OpenShift, which you acquire obviously as a WebSphere user through the Cloud Pak for application from IBM. So call to action on this one. Next slide, Ken. The call to action on this is, please identify one or two opportunities from your accounts. One of the questions that you as a Red Hat seller need to ask the IBM team when you reach out to them is, are there any Cloud Paks in that environment? I mean, if they acquired Cloud Paks through, for example, ELAs, I mean, we need to make sure that these are used and deployed, because we want to win the platform war. And if they're not having any, ask the question, do they have any WebSphere application server workloads? Because odds are, and I can almost guarantee you this, that in the customer's mind, to go out of WebSphere, they need to modernize and rewrite the applications. And this is something that they could still do. So we're not going to go stop them from doing this. But if the customer tells you, it's not on my roadmap just yet, maybe I'll do this sometime next year, or maybe I'm not going to touch the traditional WebSphere applications. I'm just going to let it die, and I'm going to build net new applications. This is perfect example of scenarios to go after, because now you're telling them you don't have to rewrite, you don't have to modernize and break down the application into microservices. You can keep it as is and just simply rehost it on OpenShift and take advantage of the value that OpenShift platform offers. And again, given the fact that you already have WebSphere in your environment, that means you have the trade-up options from IBM, which for very little cost, you can convert those WebSphere workloads into Cloud Pak for application, which will give you OpenShift and the ability to deploy these. Or you can just simply, if you've done an ELA and you already have them, you don't have to pay anything, basically. Just simply start deploying it and take advantage and see the benefit and the cost savings that you're going to get out of it. And Ken, with that, I'll turn it to you if we can kind of kick off the demo.
Absolutely. Good little level setting there. So we're going to start with my on-premise cluster. I've got it just deployed on Red Hat virtualization, and it's just OpenShift, the latest version we have out right now. Now, to start, a little background about this application. I have no idea about this application. I'm not a Java programmer. I can put things in containers and deploy them, and I've got other languages I'm stronger in, but otherwise, I was given this EAR file. I was given some configuration properties, and I wrapped it in a little bit of a Docker file. Now, this code is, of course, on GitHub. Anybody can check it out as a little blueprint. But otherwise, this Docker file is built on some suggested specifications from IBM for how to deploy your application. So it's a pretty simple Docker file. We're just pulling in an image. This is my personal mirror on Quay of the WebSphere traditional container image. You've got some basic configuration in there if you want to, but mine is actually just pretty much just blank. It's an exact copy of IBM's.
So one thing worth mentioning here is this WebSphere, traditional WebSphere image, obviously Ken pulled it from, IBM publishes those on Docker Hub, and these are for development purposes only. When customers deploy them, IBM also has Docker file for WebSphere that you can build that image based on exactly what you're running, whichever fix spec you have, whatever configuration you want out of them. And as Ken's going to show you, he actually posted that and put it in the OpenShift repository that comes with OpenShift, which is called Quay. But this is kind of, in this case, he pulled it from Docker Hub. In your example, will be basically just simply building it, which is an easy thing to do, and we can easily show you just whether the IBM or the Red Hat technical sales team could easily show you how that could be done.
So we've got this, our base container image. We're copying over a couple files. We're setting some environmental variables and running our configuration script, exposing a few ports, and that's really about it. This is a pretty simple, very standard Docker file definition. So to get deployed on our on-premise cluster, I'm just going to cluster info, verify that I'm on the right cluster. So yeah, I'm here in my personal lab. I'm going to make a new project, and we'll call this WAS demo. All right, so we've got a new project. We're in this new project now as well. Next step I'm going to do is take this and start a build. This is going to create a build configuration. Otherwise, we're using a Docker strategy right now, so it's going to build it based off this Docker file. We're going to send it all the code in this directory here right now. You can define the base image here at the command line if you'd like. We're just going to reiterate what kind of image we're using, and we're going to give the build a name of WAS demo. So we can run that real quick, and we'll create that build configuration. Now, it's not building right now, so we want to actually kick that build process off. So we'll do a start build, and we're targeting the WAS demo build that we just created earlier from the WAS demo directory that I git cloned down.
Now, this is going to be a one-time deal only. So you don't have to worry about it happening every single time because it takes so long. But again, this is the same exact steps that it will take if you try to install a new fresh application into an existing traditional WebSphere environment and apply any configuration on top of it.
All right, there we are. We've got the build configuration built now. We've got the application built and an image locally stored on the internal registry. So now what I want to do is actually create an application from that image. So we'll create a new application. Now, if we go back into the web UI, we can see that this application is here. We've got the build associated with it. We've got all the additional assets that you would need, such as the deployment configuration, the services. One thing we don't have yet is a route to expose this application so you can access it from the internet, for instance. And that's pretty easy. Again, if you're comfortable working out of the command line, it's just a simple command to expose the service. And once we jump back in, we'll see we've got another little button here for going to the route. Now I'm going to go ahead and navigate there. It's going to say application not available. That's all right. That's actually something that's normal. The reason being that this is a traditional WebSphere application server, so it's going to take a little minute to spin up, right? And we can check out these logs and ensure that we're open for e-business here shortly. Once you got the container built, you can deploy it pretty easily. And OpenShift makes it easy to build it.
Yeah, that's for sure, man. This is really super easy.
And server 1 open for e-business. So now that we are loaded, we can refresh this route, and we've got a very simple little hello world application here, right? Not too shabby. And you can check out all the different logs they have available for this specific instance. We've got server 1 and the associated logs with this application here as well. And the logs are also outputting to standard out, so you can see it with a normal container-based workflow.
This is actually great because this is, again, one of the pieces where we're trying to do it with the least amount of disruption to existing processes, what people are used to. If somebody goes, I already know how to go and debug my environment, I need to have access to the actual application server. What Ken you just showed right here is exactly that. But through that terminal within the OpenShift platform, even though it's running in a container, to you within that terminal, it looks just like any other command line that you can go and access your files, much like you were used to before.
So now we've got this application built. We're happy with the way the application's configured. We're satisfied that it's running. Now, you're not wanting to build it every time on every cluster. This is a cluster I deployed onto GCP. This is a pretty simple command you run. You run the OpenShift install create cluster command. And from here, it's going to prompt you for a few basic bits of input. So what platform, GCP in this instance, what project from your GCP account, the region, base domain, cluster name, and a pull secret. Once you have that in there, it sets up everything for you. This was a blank project. It set up the infrastructure, it set up the DNS, it set up all the glue it needed in order to deploy this cluster. And at the end of 40 minutes, you can deploy this, go out for lunch, come back, and you'll have a cluster. It gives you the link, it gives you the password for your Kube admin account, and you're ready to rock and roll.
So let me get this. You basically point to a GCP environment, or it could be done the same way. I mean, you're demoing GCP in here with Google, but this could be on AWS or Azure or IBM Cloud. And all you're doing is basically taking a couple of pieces of information and having just literally a username and password for that particular public cloud. And it will both configure everything that it needs, install OpenShift, create the cluster, and everything else that you need to do. So It's one command. Awesome.
It's just as easy. A few of the prompts are changed. So again, we've got the application source here in a repository. And with that repository being available, I have gone ahead and synced it to Red Hat Quay.io. It's built an image just as we saw in the builder earlier. So it took the same sort of processes. It did all the same commands. And it took that image and it built it here, which is now publicly available. So I'm going to create a new project. So WAS demo. All right. So we have a couple different deployment strategies. We used from the Docker file earlier, which took that source on my local computer and built that image from that Docker file, but we can pull it from Git. We can pull from all different sources. In this case, we're going to use a container image that is stored on Quay.io. It's going to validate it, make sure that it can run within our security constraints and all that, and just kind of create all the additional needed assets in order to deploy it. One thing I'm going to change here is add the hello world path. I want to ensure that it's serving on port 9080, but we're just going to click create.
Now that image is in your repository and you can just simply deploy it as a container. This is excellent.
Absolutely. In this instance, for this application, there's no build configuration. So we see builds, no build configurations found for this resource. So we're not building it from source. We're just deploying that pre-built image from the Quay repository. And we should pretty much just be able to click on this. So again, application is not available. I jumped the gun. It should be up momentarily. We click a few logs and we get the same sort of logs that we saw earlier. We'll scroll over and server is now open for e-business. So we can refresh. And we've
wow, and it cut down significantly. And as you can see, just because now you have these images. But now here you have it. I mean, I don't know if you can get any better than this. And just to summarize, is we took that application server that was running standalone, normal way on premises, and Ken just put it on his OpenShift on premises. He went through building it, just show you how he's done this, and he built it from a Docker file. And then after that, took the same exact application or that image that he actually generated, which has the traditional WebSphere with 0 changes to the application, and he just simply deployed it on GCP. And you saw how fast that went. And again, what do you need to create on GCP? Nothing. You just need to actually have your credentials on a project. And beyond that, it will set up everything, install and download everything that you need and create a cluster. And the same thing will apply to the other public clouds. I mean, this is huge in terms of productivity for customers. And when you take this and understand the value you get out of now consolidation of resources, so not only are you talking about that portability, you can go to the public clouds really quickly. Many of our customers have a mission to go to the public clouds, and they think the way they can do this is literally to go and you write these applications. But now we're giving them a much faster path to go to the public cloud, where they can initially deploy the applications, then maybe pick and choose which ones they want to break down into microservices and deploy them that way, and which one they want to keep like this forever. And because they really could care less about deploying, rechanging them, or even turn them down into microservices based on the value they get out of these applications. So Ken, this is outstanding. I mean, I am so impressed, and thank you so much for the time, man. This is excellent.
My pleasure.